Greetings, Gothamites! I am the Crowlector, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're taking a little trip away from Gotham, a few thousand miles to be exact, all the way to the hot sands of Egypt, to take a look at the NECA Ultimate Universal Monsters Ardath Bey figure. Now, to get it out of the way, this is not the Ardath Bey from the 1999 Mummy, played by the hunky Oded Fair. Ooh la la. Although, NECA, if you're listening, can we get 1999 Mummy figures, please? Anyone? Anyway, this is the Ardath Bey from the 1932 Mummy, brought to life literally and figuratively by one of the masters of horror, Boris Karloff. Is this figure worth wrapping up? Or was he better off dead? Let's find out, shall we? Oh, you guys, I tried so hard not to get back into NECA. Way back in the day, I collected the Nightmare Before Christmas line, and I was a fiend for the Pirates of the Caribbean line, which I am still salty did not go on any further. And through the years, I admired NECA from afar, really trying to stay responsible, but alas, they got me. A couple years ago, when the NECA Universal Monsters Invisible Man figure was on sale at a local Best Buy, I picked him up. And you can't just have one Universal Monster, so I got a couple more. And the rest is history. Now, I have a pretty healthy horror shelf going, so this guy will have lots and lots of friends. Getting into the figure, we will start first with the box. NECA always knocks it out of the park with these boxes, especially the Universal Monsters ones. They are beautiful recreations of the old movie posters, so stunning and vibrant. Look, buried alive, brought to life again, 3,721 years later. The uncanny, the mummy. These guys, NECA, even switch it up between the color versions and the black and white versions, which is a very nice touch. Now the sides and the back really show off the figure so nicely. And of course the inner flap as well lets you see the figure in all its glory. In this case, as you can see, he's already escaped his plastic sarcophagus. And here he is, fresh out of the box. I can still smell the plastic. Is anyone else a fan of the smell of plastic? I'm sure I probably look like a total weirdo sniffing my figures straight out of the box, but I don't know, I can't help it, especially with NECA figures. They just really have that nice, sensuous plastic. Am I the only one? Anyway, here we have Mr. Ardath Bey, aka Imhotep, in all his spooky glory. He looks good for his age, really, like a wise man once said, when 3,700 years old you reach, look as good you will not. Well, would you look at that? Through some movie magic, he's looking a little better already. Now this version of Imhotep, Ardath Bey, is how he appears through most of the movie. Ironically, in a movie called The Mummy, there's surprisingly little actual mummy. And of course we did get that mummified version, because when you think The Mummy, you think a mummy. No, you can't have The Mummy without the mummy. But just like in the 1999 version, old Imhotep awakens all dehydrated and starts sucking the human juice out of folks to get back to his healthy, rejuvenated self. Between him and Dracula, monsters sure do have a thing for human juice, don't they? And to visualize that transformation, we get 3 heads, ranging from this SpongeBob after an hour in Sandy's house, to dehydrated and very hungover, and finally, ready to party like it's 2000 BC. He could definitely be one of those models for a really good skincare ad. We also get some extra hands, too. These ones here are in serious need of some lotion, while these guys are fresh out of the spa. And this guy back here is for holding the dagger for all of your sacrificial needs. Other accessories he comes with is his cane for a little late night stroll, a scroll for some late night reading, an oil lamp so he can read the scroll in the dark, and what mummy would be complete without a sacrificial dagger? Never leave home without it. Now, something to take note of, this scroll here was taped to the back of the plastic tray in a little plastic bag, and getting it out meant it did get a little bit bent there, but it's not the end of the world. It's supposed to be old and weathered after all. Now, the paint on this guy is very nice and clean. He's got some very crisp painting on the robes and the fez, and a nice little slight wash on the skin. You can see some dark circles under the eyes, a very nice touch. The beef jerky heads here have a really nice wash and some detail to them. Some browns, some grays, some dark purples. Very, very nice. There is some slight paint bleeding along where the fez meets the hat. It's nothing serious. I mean, I'm sure over a couple thousand years, the dye in the fez would probably run a little bit, but it's not terribly noticeable. I do really like this sandy, kind of mustardy color for the robes. It's not one you see very often, so it's really going to stand out on the shelf. Obviously, this is the color version. And NECA has been releasing both color and black and white versions for the Universal Monster figures so far, which I think is a very smart move. I usually go for the colored versions, even though the movies themselves were black and white. Something just feels a little more appropriate and vibrant. But then for the two Frankenstein monsters, Mr. and Mrs. Frank and Stein, I opted for the black and white version because I don't know, they just feel a little bit more appropriate to me. There hasn't, to my knowledge, been a black and white version of Ardath announced just yet, but probably a safe bet. Sculpt-wise, he is every bit as beautiful as NECA is known for. That face is undoubtedly Karloff, and he is not amused at being woken up early. These folds in the robe add some really nice movement, and even those little small details like the tie there, and the sigil, the little fez tassel on the side, all the little wrinkles in his head and hands. Sculpted robes, I think, can be a little bit tricky because depending on how you pose it, the sleeves especially can look a little unnatural, like they don't exactly hang quite appropriately. That said, I much prefer them to fabric robes because those always look a little too big. Obviously, being a robed character, that means he does become a bit of a traffic cone in the articulation department. Which is not to say that he's lacking, though. He's got a nice ball-jointed head and a separate bit of movement at the neck, the base of the neck. He's got kind of a almost ball-joint swivel hinge shoulders. Get a little bit under a nice little T-pose there. Got single cut elbows. Got hinged hands that, again, because of the robe, they do hinder movement a little bit. You can get a nice swivel, but there's not a whole lot of up and down. He also has a nice ball-jointed torso that really gives him the bulk of his movement. But if we take a peek below the waist and look up his skirt, pardon me, Mr. Emotep, he's got these cut calves here and a slight hinge on the foot. It's not much, but it does let you kind of level him out a little bit. That's it. But that's really all you need, I think. I mean, Ardath, he's an old guy. He just woke up from a long nap, so he's not really getting into any crazy fights or breakdancing or anything. Certainly none of the shenanigans that the new Emotech gets into. At this point, I think we've basically gotten almost all the Universal Monsters variants that most people would deem necessary. There is the robed Invisible Man coming, as well as a single-carded Bride of Frankenstein, Frankie, but in terms of the classic Universal Monsters, that's about it. Now, I'm recording this the weekend of Toy Fair 2025, and NECA just unveiled the Metaluna Monster and the Mask of Red Death, both of which look absolutely stunning. I will definitely be adding them both to the collection. There's always Dr. Frankenstein, Igor, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde would be a fun one. Maybe a Quasimodo or a mole person. I don't know. I mean, it's nice that even if the mainstays are now more or less done, it still feels like there's a good amount of gas left in the tank for this line. Which classic monster, Universal or otherwise, would you like to see NECA tackle next? Let me know in the comments below. Man, NECA really knocked it out of the park with this one. But then again, is anyone really surprised? I mean, NECA is a great company. There's so much potential for customization with this Ardath Bey figure. You can make him as transformed or untransformed as you want. I'm so glad I got back into collecting NECA. They really do manage to hit that spooky sweet spot for me. Maybe one day we will finally start getting new figures from those Brendan Fraser mummy movies. But for now, this is more than enough to tide me over. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time. Before you go, though, go ahead and leave a like, a comment, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to stay updated on new videos. I'll see you guys again soon for more collection reviews. But in the meantime, don't forget, stay spooky.